शारदा Kaya may महालक्ष्मी तो महेश्वरी धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मी प्रचोदयात् जातवेदसे सुनवामसो भवति यशोदः वेदाः गणपतिः विश्वानामेव कार्तिकेः तावद्यवृणां तपसा चलन्ति विरोचनीं कर्मभ्ये शुष्काः दुर्गां देवी गुरुशरणमहं पुत्रे सुतरसे महा संवारयामो स्वान् स्वस्ति भृत्रा ईश्वर पुष्टभ्ये भोगाभ्ये भवानुपायतनया समर्पयामि स्नानाभ्याद् वातावरण ज्येष्ठां लक्ष्मीं नष्टाभ्यं जगत्मान् यथाद् पवित्रं पवित्रं सहजं पुरस्ताद् आयुष्यवतीं मुदिं पुष्पं बलवं देजः श्री शारदाम्बेश्वरीः उपवीताक्षरां समर्पयामि वस्त्रोपवीतान्तरे आचम्यमाचम्यं समर्पयामि स्वाहा इति अक्षिति शाला परमेश्वरी भाति व्याप्ते प्रदत्तापिता धन्यनादित्य भक्तविद्रक्षिरो कहाला याच्छा शक्तिरो कहाला अनाविध शुष्क स्वाहा ओम प्राणाय स्वाहा ओम गणानां गणपतिं स्वामिके कविं कवीनां उपमश्रवस्तवं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मस्पदा आरष्टवन्दोतिभिर्मुखादिनं गौरीं वायसविराजच्छत्रेकपदे स्वदे सात्पुष्टे अष्टापदी नवपदे सहस्राक्षरमेभ्यवन्दन् सप्तोमि वचनपदाकृतं त्वयप्रधीराप्नसा चमत्प्रदान् राधाय सिद्धारिजानते पुत्रेशान्दस्तेन शिवाजी नो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीरावविद्यवतु मेधा देवी शमानान आगाहात् विश्वाची भद्रास्मनस्यमाना त्वजाष्ठानतमाना स्फुर्तानं भक्त्वदेव विदधे स्वीयाः त्वजादुष्टर्षिर्भवति देवी त्वजा ब्रह्मागतश्रीर सत्वया त्वया विष्टश्मित्रं विन्ददेव सुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो नमेधे मेधां महेन्द्रं धातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे क्षुद्रिणां भावाधत्तां पुष्करस्तजा सदाशुतया मेधा गन्धर्वेष्टमनः दैवी मेधा सरस्वती आवाहं मेधा शरफलपुष्पाः आवाहं मेधा शरफलपुष्पाः जगतीजगम्या योजस्वती तेसा ब्रह्मवानाशामाहं मेधा चिप्रातीकाशन्तां मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो राजो दधातु राजाधिराजाय प्रसस्य साधिदेः नमो वयं वै श्रवणाय कुर्महे समे कामाय कामकामाय मुख्यं कामेश्वरो वै श्रवणो ददातु वेराजी श्रवणाय महाराजाय नमः प्रिया नराराय सर्वस्वमूर्ति प्राप्तमहत्त्वं सर्वस्याप्ते सर्वस्य विद्ये सर्वमेव वेदानां सर्वं देवी यो वेदानभूस्वरः प्रोक्तो वेदान्ततः प्रतिष्ठितः अस्य प्रकृतिरेवस्य परब्रह्मेश्वरः साङ्गायै सायुधायै समाहरायै परिवारायै सर्वालङ्कारभूषितायै शारदा परमेश्वर्यै नमः वेदोक्तमन्त्रपुष्पाञ्जलिं समर्पयामि काली काली लकाली काली काली राधिमां कृपया देवी शरणागतवत्सले अन्यथा शरणार्थी त्वमेव शरणं तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्षमां परमेश्वरी या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु विद्यारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लक्ष्मीरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमः शरणागतमीना नगरायणे सर्वस्याद्य देवी दानाय श्री शारदा परमेश्वरी नमः प्रदक्षिणमस्तकां समर्पयामि महावाण्ये च धीमहि तन्नः सरस्वती प्रचोदयात् समर्पयामि वागीश्वरी नमस्तेस्तु नमस्ते भक्तवत्सले अशेषरूपयुक्ते भक्तवर्गप्रहाणते शारदा परमेश्वरी मार्गवत्सं समर्पयामि महाविद्ये महामाये नमस्ते ज्ञानरूपिणी नवरात्रो भगवत्प्रभोजि अर्पयामि शिवप्रिये ज्ञानरूपिणी भागवत्सं समर्पयामि नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी वामहं प्रार्थये नित्यं विद्यादानन्ददेहे शारदा परमेश्वरी भागवत्सं समर्पयामि तन्नाथं समर्पयामि प्रार्थनां च करिष्ये महाकाया कोटिसूर्यसमप्रभा देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा या कुन्देन्द्रशहारधवला या शुभवस्त्रान्विता या वीणावृदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती विश्वेशकाट्यापः नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी वामहं प्रार्थये नित्यं विद्यादानं कृतेः मे शारदां भवजवदनां भजे सर्वदा सर्वदा अस्माकं सन्निधिं कुर्यात् शरदिन्द्रदासविन्दः सांस्कृतजीवनलोचनाभिरामाम् अरविन्दसमानसुन्दरास्याम् अरविन्दासनसुन्दरीमुपासे विद्यात्मानम् अशेषलोकजननी देवी विमामीष्टदामक्षकल्पभूषणां तुनयनां वन्दे रमम्यां सुधा भक्त्यानन्दसुरासुरेन्द्रमृगकृत्यप्तरुक्ताङ्कुरा छायारण्यपादपीठकुटक्षतात्संवादिनीं नरस्वरमस्तुभं वरदेकामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धुर्भवतु मे सदा अन्वहं कृपया देवी ಹೇಳಿ ಅನ್ವಹಂ ಕೃಪಯಾ ದೇವಿ ಪರಮೇಶಿ ಪ್ರಸೀದ ಮೇ ಅಭೀಷ್ಟದಾನಾತ್ ದೇವೇಶಿ ಚತುರಾನನವಲ್ಲಭೆ ಪ್ರಜಾಂ ದೇಹಿ ಧನಂ ದೇಹಿ ಸರ್ವಕಾಮಾಂಶ್ಚ ದೇಹಿ ಮೇ ದೇಹಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾಂ ಶುಭಾಂ ಮಾತಃ ಸುಪ್ರಸನ್ನಾ ಚ ಭಾರತೀ ಮಂತ್ರಹೀರಂ ಕ್ರಿಯಾಹೀನಂ ವೃತ್ತಿಹೀನಂ ಸುರೇಶ್ವರಿ ಯತ್ಪೂಜಿತಂ ಯಾ ದೇವಿ ಪರಿಪೂರ್ಣಸ್ಮೇ ಪರಾರ್ಥಸಹಸ್ರಾಣಿ ಕ್ರಿಯಂತೆ ಅಹರ್ಷಂ ಮಯಾ ದಾಸೋಯಮಿತಿ ವಾಮತ್ವ ಕ್ಷಮಸ್ವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರಿ ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ಶ್ರದ್ಧಾಂ ಮೇಧಾಂ ವಿಶ್ರಾಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾಂ ಮಧ್ಯಂ ಶ್ರಿಯಂ ಬಲಂ ಆಯುಷ್ಯಂ ತೇಜ ಆರೋಗ್ಯಂ ದೇಹಿ ಮೇ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರಿ ಸಾಂಗಾಯೈ ಸಾಯುಧಾಯೈ ಸವಾಹನಾಯೈ ಪರಿವಾರಾಯೈ ಸರ್ವಾಲಂಕಾರ ಭೂಷಿತಾಯೈ ಶ್ರೀ ಶಾರದಾ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರಿ ನಮಃ ಮನೋರಥಾಯಾಮಿ ಸತ್ಯಾಸ್ತುತು ಯಜಮಾನಸ್ಯ ಕಾಮಾಃ ಸರ್ವೇ ನಮಃ ಶಿರೋ ಭವಂತು ನಮಸ್ಕರಾಮಿ ಭವಂತು ಆರೇಷಾಮಿ ಶಾಲಿನಿ
माता के Let's turn to India now. The top headline is election results. These were regional elections for legislative assemblies, one from Jammu and Kashmir and the other from Haryana. And what's the verdict? In sporting terms, it is 1-1. The Congress and the National Conference have won in Jammu and Kashmir, and the BJP has won in Haryana. It's their third victory in a row. And within this scoreline, there are many stories. So let's take a closer look. This was Kashmir's first election since 2014, also the first since Article 370 was removed, the article that gave Jammu and Kashmir special powers. It was scrapped in 2019. So the election campaign this time was framed around that issue. The BJP said it was a masterstroke, scrapping Article 370. The opposition called it a betrayal. Let's look at the numbers now. The National Conference has won 42 seats. That's the party of Omar and Farooq Abdullah. They were allied with the Congress Party and the Communist Party. The Congress won 6 seats. The Communists got 1 seat. So put together, this bloc, this opposition bloc, has got 49 seats. Now, to put that in context, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly has 90 seats. The majority mark is 46. They've got 49. It should be smooth sailing for the NC and the Congress. Omar Abdullah is expected to be Chief Minister again. And what about the BJP? Well, they have won 29 seats, all of them in the Jammu region. But we'll come to that later. You see, this victory is a very consequential one. Just look at the NC manifesto. They have promised to work towards the restoration of Article 370, basically to restore special powers to the state. They also want to modify or cancel laws that were passed after 2019. Of course, 370 is the centre's domain. The state government plays no role or no part in it. But it does set the stage for an interesting period ahead, possibly one of friction. Nonetheless, let's look at the big takeaways. First of all, democracy has returned. We did not see any violence during this election. No one's complaining about the results. And that's what ultimately matters. Peaceful and fair elections. That's a big, big win. Secondly, the hardline elements have flopped. Dozens of separatists had joined the poll fray as independents, including allies of separatist leader Engineer Rashid. He's in jail for a terror financing case. But he was granted bail to campaign. Even the Jamaat-e-Islami had fielded candidates in this election. They were all expected to make an impact, maybe cut into the vote bank of the National Conference, but clearly they did not. Only 7 independents managed to win this time. And the third big takeaway, Jammu and Kashmir is a story of 2 regions, the Kashmir Valley and Jammu. Just look at this map. All of the BJP's wins are in the Jammu region, which is largely Hindu-dominated. All of National Conference's wins are in Kashmir, which is Muslim-dominated. And this was the case in 2014 as well. The BJP swept Jammu and the PDP, or the People's Democratic Party, swept Kashmir. This time the PDP is nowhere. They've been reduced to just 3 seats. Even party chief Mehbooba Mufti's daughter Iltija lost her seat. It looks like their voters shifted to the National Conference. Still, the NC is asking the PDP to join their coalition, sort of like a show of unity. And that is the story from Kashmir. The Abdullahs are back in power. They have traditionally had good relations with New Delhi, but this is post-370 Kashmir, so let's see how it goes. Which brings us to the second state, the state of Haryana. The day began with celebrations at the Congress headquarters. Early trends gave them 60 out of 90 seats. It looked like the Congress may oust the BJP in Haryana, that too after 10 years in power, 10 years of the BJP rule. But close to noon, the numbers changed. The BJP raced ahead of the Congress, and look at the final tally. The BJP has won 48 seats, which is a shade over the majority mark of 46. And the Congress has got 37 seats. It's a remarkable win for the Bharatiya Janata Party. A, because no one really gave them a chance. Most exit polls predicted a Congress win. And B, because it's a victory against anti-incumbency. Like I said, the BJP had been in power since 2014. No party had won 3 consecutive elections in Haryana before this. So the odds were against them. But the BJP managed to improve its tally, not only win, but improve the tally. They won 40 seats in the 2019 election, the last election. This time, they've got 48. Now, the Congress is not happy about the shift in numbers. They're talking about foul play by the Election Commission.
शिकायतें आ रही हैं कि कैसे बैटरीज जो मशीन की थी वो 99% और जिन मशीनों की बैटरीज 99% थी, उन मशीनों में नतीजा एक आया, हमें हराने वाला नतीजा आया। और जो मशीनें नहीं, जिनको छेड़ा गया, जिनकी बैटरी 60-70% जो स्वाभाविक या होनी चाहिए थी, उसमें हम जीत रहे हैं हमारे कैंडिडेट।
Well, the complaints, I'm sure, will be investigated, but frankly, it's a losing battle. You cannot accept the system in Kashmir and question the same system in Haryana. It's a clear double standard. The Congress should rather introspect. They were set to be in pole position in the state of Haryana. So how did they mess it up? A lot of factors are being talked about, including infighting in their ranks. You see, there were 3 chief ministerial aspirants in the party, in the Congress party: Bhupinder Singh Hooda, Kumari Selja, and Randeep Surjewala. It's a situation that inevitably backfires. But let's also look at the bigger picture. What do the results in Haryana mean for Indian politics? Again, 3 things. 1, it's a speed bump for the opposition. They were flying high after the Lok Sabha elections, despite losing. There was talk of a Congress resurgence. A victory in Haryana may have added momentum to those conversations, but now questions will be asked. The Congress had a direct face-off with the BJP in Haryana. They had issues to capitalize on. And their leader, Rahul Gandhi himself, led massive marches and rallies. Yet they lost. Secondly, it's a big relief for the BJP. In the Lok Sabha, they suffered setbacks in northern India, in states like Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Himachal. But this result shows that it's not a free fall, that they can still turn it around. And finally, number 3, it sets the stage for elections in Maharashtra. That's the big one coming up. Maharashtra is the richest state in India. It's currently ruled by a BJP coalition. Let's see how that one unfolds.
First Post decodes the U.S. election. Explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on First Post.
बॉडी बिल्डिंग के लिए स्टेरॉइड्स नहीं। आई ट्रस्ट कपिवा शिलाजीत गोल्ड का 5 हर्ब्स ब्लेंड। इसका हिमालयन शिलाजीत 2 महीनों में टेस्टोस्टेरोन बढ़ाए और अश्वगंधा स्ट्रेस कम करे, स्वर्ण भस्मा स्टैमिना बढ़ाए। वाह, कपिवा, रिजल्ट्स दैट मेक यू गो वाह।
This has got to be this Prime Minister. Let me tell you, I've now worked with him now for 6 years. My God, he listened. And by the way, if there's anybody who actually will change his mind, if you give him evidence that whatever his preconceived view is, needs to be changed because this is what the evidence is, he changes his mind. Any of you have ever been to the US, you will find that they have terrible domestic airline. I mean, even the worst Indian airline is better than their best. Why does this happen? Because they don't allow this creative destruction thing to happen. Whereas we are allowing this creative destruction to happen. Good guys are coming, bad guys are going. ILO has gone and done this study, or WHO know what they're doing. But a lot of it is just garbage. They made it up because they want to manipulate you in some way. And many of these international organizations deliberately do this.
We've created so many episodes on geopolitics. People have come on the podcast and expressed their opinions. People have expressed their opinions on PM Modi, the current government, the future of India. Sometimes these opinions have been negative. So many people express themselves on YouTube, on social media. And I also strongly believe that most strong opinions are backed by loose information, usually. Not in all cases. In some cases, they're extremely well researched, extremely well thought out. They take into account the other side of the argument as well. And whether you're a pro-Modi listener of the show or an anti-Modi listener of the show, if you're an Indian, if you care about where India is going, or if you simply care about the subject of economics, this is the episode for you. Sanjeev Sanyal works directly with the PM of our country. He's a part of the PM office as an economic advisor for the future of our nation. People like him decide where our nation goes 5 years from now, 10 years from now, especially when it comes to money, especially when it comes to the growth of our country. This is the kind of conversation you want to listen to before forming opinions about the Modi government or governments in general, or what's happening in the world generally. I'm not going to speak too much anymore. I will let you slip into this economics special of the Ranveer Show. Remember, if the conversation gets extremely heavy for you, scan TRS Clips, our YouTube highlights channel, where we only upload highlights of each episode. It'll help you sit through the different sections of this episode. If you want to increase your attention span though, you better start meditating. My meditation app Level is now live on the App Store and the Play Store. Go check it out. And finally, all I'll say is follow us on Spotify, because a lot more conversations like this are coming up very soon. We're a Spotify exclusive. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This is Sanjeev Sanyal on The Ranveer Show. Sanjeev Sanyal, welcome to The Ranveer Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
You just told me not to get intimidated by you before we began shooting. I want to know why you said that.
No, people are way too deferential, sir, etc. in these kinds of things. So I said, please don't be deferential.
Honestly, you're one of the widest spectrum of personalities. Like, you have one of the most elaborate kind of knowledge sets. So before this episode, I was actually figuring, okay, should I talk to you about your family's history? Should I talk to you about economics? Should I talk to you about your day-to-day life? I don't know what I should talk to you about. But in saying that, we've never done an economic-centric episode on the show. So I think that's why we'll dive deeper. How do you explain economics to a 4-year-old?
Well, it's about, a 4-year-old may be a bit too young.
Okay.
But I think somewhere around about 10-year-old, I could explain
Sure.
it. That, look, there is a limited amount of resources on this planet. And how do you make sure that it gets used in a way that makes as many people as possible prosperous, and that we can all have a good life and incorporate new technologies and make progress?
Okay.
So how do you arrange all of that is what economics is about.
Okay. What do you mean by resources?
Resources means, there's only so much food to eat. There's only so much industrial production. There's natural resources of various kinds, minerals, water, etc. So how do you make sure that you take all these resources and make sure that they are distributed in the best possible way? And so part of it can be done by government, part of it can be done by markets, and so on and so forth. And how this arrangement works is economics.
Okay. All right. What's a day in your life like? Like, what do you do right now for people who have no clue about what you do specifically with the government? Can you explain your job to them?
Sure. I am an economic advisor to Prime Minister Modi. So, obviously that's about providing economic advice to how to, as I said, run the economy and so on. But since you asked about how my day works, let me say there is no pattern at all in it, because I travel quite a lot. Right now I'm in Mumbai, but I live in Delhi. Next week I am in New York for a conference in Columbia University. So there's a lot of traveling. Then, as you can imagine, this is a job which is very prone to crises of various kinds. So, you have COVID shock. So suddenly there's a lot of work related to that, which you never imagined. You sort of got swayed off into a different direction. Then there is G20 and these kinds of things that turn up. So it's very choppy. There will be days when I really work very hard. And then there are times where hopefully a little bit slower.
Okay.
And so, and in the middle of all that, I'm attempting to write a book and do other things as well. So I'm one of those people who you have to be very disciplined with this, because you have to keep things moving without there being any pattern in your otherwise in the life. So it's not like, some people say, I like writing a book at, I have 2 hours designated every day to write. I have no such thing. I mean, all my books have been written, the chapters have been written, in one big, one long weekend I got free and I wrote one whole chapter in that. Like, I worked 16 hours, 3 days flat and finished the chapter, because that's literally the only way I can do it.
how did you get to this point of actually becoming an advisor for the government? Like you would have definitely studied a lot, done a lot, and then I'm assuming you would have been cherry picked in some form.
Love me, oh me, now, love me, oh me, now, love me, oh.
जब उपहार का मौका हो माँ के दिल की सुनो हिमालय बेबी केयर हैप्पी बेबी गिफ्ट पैक्स तोहफे लगाव के
So I studied economics first at Delhi University, then at Oxford University. Then I became a financial markets guy for about 22 years. So I was an economist. So I'm not, when I'm saying I'm working in financial markets, I don't mean that I'm a mainline guy who gives out loans or something like that. No, I'm not a banker in that sense. I was an economist. And my job was really to just look at how interest rates are moving, exchange rates were moving, sovereign credit risk, equity markets, liquidity, things like that.
You'll have to explain what these things mean to like school-going audiences.
Fine.
Not
you know about the share market?
Yeah.
You know about exchange rate, rupee,
Yes.
dollar rates, etc.
Yes.
So my job was try and guess, roughly speaking, what's happening in these markets, and essentially help my team to make bets on that.
Okay.
So the other word for it is basically calculated speculation. You can call it that, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
You basically knew a lot about finance. You had studied it all your life, and you were in a position to be able to predict
so I
the
worked
near
for
future.
Europe's largest bank, which is Deutsche Bank.
Okay.
Till about end of 2015. And so this was my job. So looking at global markets, and not India, I was looking at markets around the world, and basically managing investments, risks, uncertainty, and trying to basically make sure that our banks, clients, and ourselves were able to make money in this and manage the risks. All kinds of shocks keep happening. You know what's happening in financial markets right now. Banks in the US are failing. Credit Suisse is under stress, and so on. So these kinds of things happen all the time. So my job was to kind of keep up with all of this. And so that's what I did till 2015 end.
So you had to study for a living in many ways.
Yes, I had to study for a living, but it's not academic studying in that sense. After all the academic training, a lot of it is really being imaginative, because unlike an academic where you can go and say something and there's not very much skin in the game, here things would blow up if you got it wrong. So, you burn your fingers a few times, and after that, you have a lot of respect for markets because they can do things that you can't imagine suddenly happen. So that's what I did till 2015. Then, I was sounded out by the political leadership, whether I was willing to come over and work in the government. And so I said yes. So in the very beginning
But one second,
Yes.
you're being humble here. I want to ask you why you and why not other people in your position?
like in any field, there are relatively few eligible people, so to speak. In any field, that is the case. So if you're looking for music director, there'll be a relatively small group of 10-15 people. If you want to do design, chips or something, in that world there'll be maybe 10-15 people. So similarly, macroeconomists in the world who have some track record, etc., isn't a very large universe. There is a bunch of people like K.V. Subramaniam, my former colleague, or Raghuram Rajan, who was the governor. If you add a bunch of these people like that, Bibek Debroy, who is my colleague again right now in the Prime Minister's Economic Council, so you end up with macroeconomists, economists of some standing. It comes to 15 people. So I happen to be one of those people.
And this is why people get intimidated by you, sir. This is the whole intimidation angle. Not that we're getting intimidated. I'm trying to get to your human side.
Okay.
But let's go on. Now I'll let you continue the story.
Yeah. So then, so if you're one of those, for whatever reason, they decide that maybe he might be willing to come and work in the government. Not everybody agrees. So I did.
Because it's a high pressure job, I'm assuming.
It's a high pressure job. Some people may have other preferences.
Okay.
Working in financial markets, for example, is financially a lot more lucrative than it is for working in the government, for example. and so on and so forth. So there may be multiple reasons why people may not want to take it up.
Okay.
So it's a small pool, and not everybody wants to work in the government. People may have ideological or political differences. That's another reason they may not want to work with a particular government. They may be willing to work with another government. So there are many reasons.
Do you have political ambition?
No, I'm not. I'm a technocrat in that sense. I mean, obviously, I have ideological views, but by and large, I'm an administrator of things. So yeah, so that's how in February of 2017, I ended up working in the government. But that time, I did a somewhat different job. I joined the government as principal economic advisor to the finance minister at that time. So I was working in the finance ministry, and I worked for 5 years there as the principal economic advisor. So some of your viewers may be familiar with something called the Economic Survey. So I was one of the principal authors of that economic survey that comes out every year. So that's what I did. And of course,
and for people who are not familiar, you'll have to explain what it is.
Okay, so the economic survey is published every year just before the budget, on the day before the budget. Those of you viewers who have been prepared for the UPSC or studied economics in university and so on will be familiar with this document. Comes out every year. It is possibly the most widely read document written by the Indian government. And for the 5 years that I was the principal economic advisor, I was one of its main authors. And after doing that, till the budget or economic survey of 2022, I then shifted to the new team as part of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, where I am now.
Okay. I get that you were in a different department, but in my eyes, it kind of seems like a similar job. Like in terms
it is
of
a similar job. It is a similar job.
What you were doing with the finance minister and now with the PM.
Yes. So, but there is some difference. I'll tell you. That job, principal economic advisor, is a little more operational in the sense that I have to think about, let's say, the monthly GST collections and things like that. Here, it's much more strategic because you're working in the Prime Minister's office. So you're thinking about things like, even though I used to work for about G20, but I'll think about it more here. Or I'll think about things which may not be purely economics as well. So here, because that is more vertical, this is more horizontal.
Gotcha.
So one of the things I've worked on recently, which may appear to have nothing to do with economics, is a report on relooking at the list of nationally protected monuments. So India has some 3,700 odd nationally protected monuments, and relooking at the list to see whether that's a sensible list or not. I published a report on this a month ago. Now, this would not be something I would have done if I was the principal economic advisor, but here, because I am the Prime Minister's economic advisor, which is a more flat, cross-cutting job. This is something that I would do.
Okay. Heavy job profile. There's a lot to dig. Like, you've already given me like 30 questions to ask you. This doesn't happen to me at this point in the podcast, but let's dive straight in.
Let's dive straight in.
Okay. I want to ask you to begin with, what's it actually like working in the PM's office on a day-to-day basis? Now, what I have understood from the show, from diplomats, from anyone who's even kind of worked with the government, I figured that PM Modi is extremely busy. He has almost no time to spare. He's always running around. And I'm assuming that that's the case with his entire office as well. So on a very human level, how intense is it really? And second question is, what's a day in the life like there? Always new things to fight. But then where is the room for creativity where you can think of like how to run the nation a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 10 years from now?
So obviously there is one core team in the PMO that is dealing with the day-to-day issues, and they are dealing with the ministries where also. So in that sense, it's a boiler room where all kinds of things are going on. And I participate in it too. But the role I have is exactly what you said, thinking about the somewhat longer term. That's why I get time to be able to, relatively speaking to the others, do more research, pick up a topic and write, say, a working paper. And I keep publishing working papers.
What's a working paper?
Working paper is like a slightly more formal, thought through paper on an issue, like just you said. Like it could be on, let's say, randomly picking up a working paper I've done in the last few months. you'd pick up the patents office. Okay, the patenting is all about intellectual property rights and all of this thing. And so I wrote a paper saying why India's patenting system should be 3-4 times larger than it is today. So you make the case, why do we need the patenting system? Why does it need to be 4 times as large? How much money would it take? How many people need to be hired? So that is not day-to-day fighting. This is more strategic kind of thinking. So this is the sort of thing that I have the luxury of doing that maybe many other people working for the Prime Minister may not have that luxury. So I get that luxury.
The creative aspect, like building the future.
It's a little bit of space, but somebody has to do it. So here I am.
So technically, you are responsible for the criticism or appreciation that the government will get a year from now or 2 years from now, at least in some capacity.
Yeah, some capacity. Obviously, a lot of it depends on implementation. It's not like just because I said something, it gets done. Many people may disagree. The Prime Minister himself may disagree. So not that every idea I have finds fruition, but yes, to the extent that they do, I deserve the criticism or credit, whichever way you want to put it.
So when trolls say, "Achhe din aa gaye," it's actually directed at you.
Yeah, of course. We take it personally.
Okay. Are you guys aware of online trolling or all that? I'm sure.
Of course, I get trolled all the time on Twitter. Anybody who's on Twitter gets trolled all the time. There are a whole bunch of people. If I say the sun rises in the east, they'll say, "Acha, how do you know? ये ही क्या अच्छे दिन है."
Cool. What else are you used to reading on Twitter?
All kinds of things. By the way, I have another life as a historian. So, there are a whole bunch of people who will say, why is The Economist writing history books? So, aise bhi log hain. Then there are people, no matter what I say, as I said, even if I say the sun rose in the east, they will criticize. All kinds of things. If you open yourself up on social media, you should be willing to get trolled all the time. And then there are people who are, you can see that there has a fake account that has been created for the express purpose of trolling you. So it's okay. It's part of the game.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you what PM Modi is like to work with and what do people not understand about him as a person?
So I think, people have this view that he has this preset view of the world and he rams it through. Absolutely not true. If there is anybody who is a good listener, this has got to be this Prime Minister. Let me tell you, I've now worked with him now for 6 years. First as Prime Minister, as Principal Economic Advisor, and now directly as part of his Economic Advisory team. I have been in meetings with other people there, and I have been in many one-to-one meetings with him. My God, he listens. And by the way, if there's anybody who actually will change his mind, if you give him evidence that whatever his preconceived view is, needs to be changed because this is what the evidence is, he changes his mind. And that, I believe, is the greatest trait of a leader, that when presented evidence, contrary to his whatever may be his preconceived idea, he changes his view. And I think that is an amazing trait. So the ability to listen is, I would say, his biggest strength.
Okay. And that's usually where growth as a leader stops, right? Like the moment you kind of stop taking feedback or you stop listening.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Prime Minister Modi is all about feedback loops. It is those who work closely with him